The Grand Assembly Hall floated in perfect silence above Viridian Prime. Inside, hundreds of alien delegates filled the massive chamber. Their voices echoed off crystal walls as they debated and argued. At the center of it all, Ambassador Hyunwoo sat with his human delegation. His face showed nothing, but his hands gripped the edge of the table. 3 years of war had brought them here. 3 years since Crethean warships attacked human colony transports. 40,000 civilians died in those attacks. Men, women, children. All gone in flashes of plasma fire. Humanity had fought back. They fought hard. Human fleets pushed the Cretheans back to their own borders. Every victory cost blood, but humans paid that price. Now the Galactic Council wanted peace. But the terms they offered made Hyunwoo's stomach turn. Velthun, the High Arbitrator, stood at his podium. His forearms gestured grandly as he spoke. His voice carried across the chamber with practiced authority. He was used to being obeyed. "The Council has reviewed all evidence," Velthun announced. "We have reached our decision. Humanity must withdraw from all captured territories immediately. Furthermore, humanity will pay reparations to the Crethean Empire for damages caused during the conflict. Finally, humanity will accept weapons restrictions for 100 standard years." Yoonji, sitting beside Hyunwoo, stiffened. She was a military attaché, a soldier who had fought in the war. Her jaw clenched tight. Around them, other human delegates showed similar reactions. Shock, anger, disbelief. Hyunwoo raised his hand to speak. Velthun ignored him. The arbitrator continued talking, listing more conditions, more restrictions, more demands, all placed on humanity. Nothing asked of the Cretheans who started the war. Finally, Velthun acknowledged Hyunwoo with a dismissive wave. "The human delegation may speak briefly." Hyunwoo stood slowly. He activated his data tablet and prepared to present evidence. Evidence of Crethean war crimes, footage of civilian transports being destroyed, records of illegal weapons used on colony worlds, testimony from survivors. "Honorable Council," Hyunwoo began. "I must object to these terms. The Crethean Empire attacked us without provocation. We have documented proof of—" "Your time is limited, Ambassador," Velthun interrupted. "We have no interest in excuses. These are not excuses. These are facts. 40,000 civilians died in the initial attacks. The Cretheans targeted non-military vessels. Under galactic law is interpreted by this council," Velthun said coldly. "Not by species too young to understand its complexities. Your people suffered casualties. This is unfortunate but inevitable. It is the price of learning one's place in civilized space." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Several alien delegates nodded. The Crethean representative, Kretvar, made a sound that might have been laughter. Hyunwoo felt something break inside him. Not his composure. Something deeper. A final thread of hope that this council operated with fairness. With justice. "We seek only equality," Hyunwoo said quietly. "We ask to be heard as equals. Equality is earned over centuries, not claimed after a few years of violence," Velthun replied. His tone suggested he was explaining something to a child. "Humanity is simply too primitive to bear the burden of civilization without guidance. Accept the Council's wisdom. Accept these terms. This is our final offer." Yoonji leaned close to Hyunwoo. "We can't accept this," she whispered urgently. "Our people will never accept this." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. He looked around the chamber. At the hundreds of alien faces. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked indifferent. A few looked pleased. No one spoke in humanity's defense. No one questioned the obvious injustice. He began gathering his documents. The movement caught Velthun's attention. "You are dismissed, Ambassador," the arbitrator said. "You have 7 days to deliver humanity's formal acceptance." Hyunwoo stood. His entire delegation stood with him. The sound of chairs moving echoed in the sudden silence. Every eye in the chamber turned toward them. "Humanity came here in good faith," Hyunwoo said. His voice was calm, but carried clearly through the hall. "We offered peace as equals. We sought understanding, we hoped for justice. He paused, looking directly at Velthun. You have shown us we are not welcome at this table. You have shown us that you see us as children to be disciplined, not partners to be respected. He collected his tablet and began walking toward the exit. His delegation followed. We will not beg for what is already ours by right of blood, Hyunwoo continued as he walked. We will not accept being treated as inferiors. We will not surrender what we fought to protect. This council has made its position clear. Humanity's position is equally clear. You are making a grave mistake, Velthun called after him. Without the council's protection, humanity will not survive. Hyunwoo stopped at the chamber doors. He turned back one final time. Then we will survive without the council, he said simply. The human delegation walked out. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. Inside the chamber, shocked silence lasted for several long moments. Then the noise began. Angry voices, surprised voices, dismissive voices. Velthun watched the closed doors with narrowed eyes. They will return, he said confidently. They always do. But deep in the embassy quarters, Hyunwoo sent a coded message to Earth. Just 3 words. Terms are unacceptable. Execute Protocol Starfall. The emergency council session began 3 hours after the humans left. Velthun stood before the assembled delegates with complete confidence. He had handled difficult species before. Humans would be no different. The human delegation has made an emotional display, he announced. This is to be expected from such a young species. They lack the wisdom to see beyond their immediate anger. Within days, perhaps hours, they will request to return to negotiations. When they do, we will add additional conditions for this insult. Several delegates voiced agreement. The Krethian representative Kretvar was particularly vocal. Humanity must learn respect. Their military got lucky. Nothing more. When we crush them properly, they will beg for mercy. Not everyone agreed. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably. The Centauri ambassador raised a tentacle hesitantly. Perhaps the terms were too harsh. The humans did suffer significant civilian casualties, which they exaggerated for sympathy, Velthun dismissed. I have reviewed their claims. 40,000 dead? A tragic number for them, perhaps. But the Krethians lost military vessels. Trained warriors. Far more valuable. The Centauri ambassador said nothing more. No one else questioned the arbitrator's judgment. In the Council's economic division, analysts prepared reports. They showed human trade routes, human economic partnerships, all ran through Council-controlled systems. The reports concluded that without Council protection and trade access, humanity's economy would collapse within 6 months. Their military would run out of supplies within 3. The military division presented similar findings. Human fleets were overstretched, their shipyards working at maximum capacity just to maintain current force levels. They could not sustain another major conflict. The reports were clear. Humanity was exhausted. Velthun distributed these reports widely. You see? Humanity has no choice. They are trapped. They need us far more than we need them. Far from the council chambers, Captain Daehyun received new orders aboard his flagship. He read them twice to be sure he understood correctly. Then he activated the fleet-wide communication system. All vessels, this is Fleet Command. Begin immediate withdrawal from all council space. I repeat, withdraw from all council space. Return to defensive positions around human territories. Execute Protocol Starfall, acknowledge. One by one, human ships confirmed the orders. Within hours, every human military vessel began moving. Peacekeeping forces abandoned their posts. Defense patrols pulled back. Trade escorts returned home. The withdrawal was total and absolute. The Krethian Empire watched the human withdrawal with satisfaction. Kretvar brought his findings to the Empire's War Council. The humans are retreating. They fear us. Now is the time to strike, the Krethian Emperor agreed. He ordered full mobilization. The Third Armada, 300 warships strong, assembled at the border. It was an overwhelming force. The largest the Krethians had deployed in decades. Kretvar addressed his fleet commanders with absolute confidence. The humans are broken. They withdraw because they cannot fight. We will push into their territory and they will collapse. Any resistance will be minor. 12 council races pledged support to the Krethian offensive, not with ships or soldiers, but with supplies, logistics, and economic backing. They believed they were supporting the winning side. They believed the war would be over quickly. The Emperor issued his ultimatum. It was broadcast across human space and throughout the Council territories. Humanity has 30 standard days to accept the Council's terms. If they refuse, the Krethian Empire will enforce compliance. We will occupy human colonies. We will seize human assets. We will teach them the cost of defiance. On Earth, in the Military Command Center, Admiral Bora read the ultimatum. She showed it to her staff without comment. They had been expecting something like this. "How long until the Third Armada moves?" she asked. "Intelligence says they will wait the full 30 days, an officer replied. "They want humanity to surrender without fighting." "And if we don't?" "Then they cross the border with everything they have." Bora nodded slowly. "Good, that gives us time. Is Operation GhostNet ready?" "Yes, Admiral. All units are in position. Stealth ships report ready status. And the evacuation? Border colonies are being emptied as we speak. Nothing will be left for them to capture." Across human space, colonies received evacuation orders. People packed essential belongings. Ships arrived to transport them deeper into human territory. Mining stations were stripped of equipment. Defense satellites were deactivated and removed. Everything of value was pulled back. In council chambers, intelligence reports began arriving. They described the human withdrawal, the evacuations. Analysts interpreted this as confirmation that humanity was abandoning the border regions. "They are giving up without a fight," Velthone declared. "The Krethians will find empty space. Humanity cannot afford to defend those territories, so they retreat. This proves our analysis was correct." G1, a human intelligence officer working undercover in neutral space, monitored all Council communications. She sent encrypted reports back to Earth. The Council believed humanity was beaten. The Krethians believed victory was certain. Everyone was making plans based on false assumptions. The 30 days passed slowly. Humanity made no statements, sent no messages, asked for no negotiations. The silence was complete. On day 30, the ultimatum expired. The Krethian Third Armada crossed into human-claimed space. Kretvar stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the displays. "Begin the advance. Secure the first 3 systems. We will occupy human colonies and force their surrender." The massive fleet moved forward. 300 warships in tight formation. It was an impressive sight. Overwhelming force designed to crush any resistance. They encountered empty space. The first system was abandoned. The second system was abandoned. The third system showed no signs of human presence. "No defense fleets, no orbital stations, nothing. Where are they?" Kretvar demanded. "Where are the humans?" His sensor officers had no answers. Scans showed no human ships within range, no military installations. The colonies were empty. Even the satellites were gone. "They fled," one officer suggested. "They ran rather than face us." Kretvar smiled coldly. "Then we will chase them. Push deeper. Find where they are hiding." But something felt wrong. The emptiness was too complete, too organized. This was not a panicked retreat. This was planned. In the darkness between stars, human stealth ships powered up their systems. They had been waiting in silence for weeks, waiting for the Krethian fleet to commit, waiting for the right moment. Admiral Bora sat in her command center watching the tactical displays. The Krethian Third Armada was exactly where she wanted them, deep in empty space, far from support, surrounded by nothing. She opened a secure channel to her strike groups. "All units, this is command. Execute GhostNet. I say again, execute GhostNet. Show them what happens when they underestimate humanity." The Krethian Third Armada drifted through empty space, 300 warships searching for an enemy that seemed to have vanished. Kretvar grew more frustrated with each passing hour. His fleet had advanced deep into human territory and found nothing worth conquering. "This makes no sense," he told his officers. "Where are their defenses? Where are their fleets? They cannot have abandoned all of this space without a fight." His communications officer looked up from her console. "Commander, we are receiving reports from home. Multiple stations have gone dark. We have lost contact with Outpost 7, Supply Depot 12, and the Koresh shipyards." "What?" Kretvar turned sharply. "Those facilities are deep in our territory, behind our defensive lines. How can we lose contact?" "Unknown, Commander." The last transmissions mentioned unidentified ships appearing without warning. Before Kretvar could respond, more reports flooded in. Another supply depot destroyed, a logistics hub burning, a military repair station under attack, all of them far from the border. all of them supposedly safe. Admiral Bora watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Her gamble was working perfectly. While the Crethean Empire sent its main fleet hunting for humans in empty space, she had sent her ships hunting for their infrastructure. Commander Sang-ho led one of the strike teams. His Special Forces unit had just finished placing charges throughout a Crethean supply complex. The facility stored enough ammunition and fuel to support fleet operations for months. Now it would store nothing but debris. Charges set, Sang-ho reported. All personnel clear, detonating in 30 seconds. His team boarded their stealth transport and pulled away. The facility's defenders never knew they had been infiltrated. Human stealth technology had improved dramatically during the war. Engineer Haewon had perfected systems that made human ships nearly invisible to Crethean sensors. The supply complex erupted in a series of explosions. Fire bloomed in the darkness. Sang-ho watched it burn as his ship accelerated away. By the time Crethean reinforcements arrived, his team would be systems away. Target destroyed, he reported. Moving to secondary objective. Similar reports came from strike teams across Crethean space. Human forces were hitting targets that should have been impossible to reach. Shipyards that built Crethean warships, factories that produced weapons, fuel refineries, communication hubs. The attacks were coordinated and devastating. The Crethean military command realized the truth too late. While they had sent their best fleet to invade human space, humanity had invaded theirs. Not with armies or fleets, with small, fast teams that struck like ghosts and vanished before defenders could respond. Kretvar received an emergency transmission from the Crethean High Command. Third Armada is ordered to return immediately. The homeland is under attack. We need those ships here now. Return. Kretvar could not believe it. We are in the middle of occupied territory. We are completing our mission. What territory? You have occupied empty space. Meanwhile, the humans are destroying our supply network. We have lost 40% of our logistics capability. The fleet cannot operate without supplies. Return home immediately. Kretvar looked at his tactical displays. The truth was undeniable. His massive fleet sat in empty systems while the real war happened behind them. He had been led into a trap. Not a trap of weapons and ships. A trap of assumptions and arrogance. All vessels prepare to withdraw, he ordered reluctantly. We are returning to Crethean space. But withdrawing proved more difficult than advancing. The Third Armada had pushed deep into the border regions. Their supply lines stretched back across multiple systems, supply lines that human forces now controlled. Bora had planned for this too. As the Crethean fleet turned around, they found human ships blocking the fastest routes home. Not many ships, just enough to force the Cretheans to take longer paths that consumed more fuel, more time. The Third Armada's supply situation became critical. Ships began running low on fuel. Ammunition reserves depleted. Food supplies for the crews ran short. The fleet that had seemed so overwhelming days ago now struggled just to reach friendly territory. Kretvar made the hardest decision of his military career. He opened a communication channel to the nearest human ship. A small cruiser that could not possibly stand against his fleet, but none of that mattered anymore. Human vessel, this is Commander Kretvar of the Crethean Third Armada. I wish to discuss terms of surrender. The response came from Admiral Bora herself. Her face appeared on the display, calm and professional. Commander Kretvar, we are prepared to accept your surrender. Order your ships to power down weapons and engines. Prepare to be boarded and escorted to holding facilities. I have 300 warships, Kretvar said desperately. You have what? 20 ships in this region? You cannot hold us. I have enough ships for this purpose, Bora replied. Your fleet has no fuel to fight, no supplies to sustain a battle. Your homeworld cannot send help, because they are defending against our strikes. You have two choices. Surrender with dignity or drift here until your life support fails. Choose now. Kretvar looked around his bridge. His officers stared at him, waiting. They all knew the truth. The mighty Third Armada had been defeated without a major battle. Defeated by strategy, planning, and humanity's refusal to fight the war the Cretheans expected. We surrender, Kretvar said quietly. The words tasted like poison. The surrender took 12 hours to complete. 300 Crethean warships powered down their weapons. Human boarding teams took control of each vessel. The crews were processed as prisoners of war. Not a single shot was fired during the entire operation. Bora broadcast the surrender across all Council communication channels. She wanted everyone to see this, to understand this. The message was simple but clear. The Crethean Third Armada has surrendered to human forces. They came to finish us. They came expecting an easy victory over a broken enemy. Instead, they learned what happens when you underestimate humanity. We are not broken. We are not weak. We are done being treated as inferiors. She looked directly at the camera. Her expression was cold steel. You came to finish us. Instead, you have shown the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. We did not win through superior numbers. We won through superior planning, determination, and refusal to accept defeat. Let this be a lesson to all who think humanity can be bullied into submission. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions watched the footage of the massive Crethean fleet sitting dead in space. 300 warships defeated by a force a tenth their size. In the council chambers, Velthun watched the broadcast in stunned silence. His confident predictions had been completely wrong. The humans had not begged to return. They had not collapsed without council support. Instead, they had won. The implications slowly became clear. If the Crethean Empire could be defeated so thoroughly, then the Council's military power was not as overwhelming as everyone believed. And if humanity could operate independently of the Council, then other species might consider doing the same. Everything was about to change. News of the Crethean surrender spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Independent systems watched the broadcasts with intense interest. Species that had stayed neutral during the war suddenly paid close attention to humanity. The impossible had happened. A young species had defeated a council-backed empire. On the Threxian homeworld, business leaders gathered in emergency meetings. The Threxians were merchants and industrialists, not warriors. They cared about profit and stability. The council had always guaranteed both. But now uncertainty filled the markets. Ambassador Theknor called for a private session with the Threxian Commerce Authority. We need to discuss the human situation, he said carefully. Our economic forecast assumed the Cretheans would win. Those forecasts are now worthless. On what do you propose? The authority chairman asked. I propose we open communication with humanity, quietly, without the council's knowledge. We need to understand what they plan next. Theknor was not the only one with this idea. 4 other species sent discreet messages to human representatives. They wanted to talk trade, defense agreements, technology exchange, anything that might secure their interest in this new reality. Human diplomat Jae-min received these messages with careful consideration. He was experienced enough to recognize opportunity when it appeared. But he was also cautious. These species had supported the Council's terms against humanity. Now they wanted favors. He met with Theknor in a neutral location far from Council oversight. The meeting room was simple and private. No recording devices, no witnesses. Ambassador Jae-min, Theknor began, I will be direct. The Threxian Consortium wishes to establish relations with humanity, independent of the Council. Why? Jae-min asked simply. Your people supported the Council's terms. Those terms would have crippled us. We supported what we believed was the winning position, Theknor admitted. This was a business decision, not personal. But circumstances have changed. Humanity has proven to be far more capable than anyone predicted. We would be foolish not to adapt. So you want to switch sides now that we are winning? We want to be on the side of stability and profit. If humanity continues on this path, the Council's economic system will fragment. We cannot afford to be caught in that collapse. Jae-min considered this. The Threxians were honest about their motivations, at least. They did not pretend to have principles. They followed money and security. What exactly are you offering? He asked. Technology exchange, industrial capacity, trade routes that bypass Council oversight. We can manufacture goods humanity needs without Council interference. In return, we want security guarantees and access to human markets. Over the next week, Jae-min held similar meetings with representatives from other species. Each offered something different. Each wanted something in return. Humanity was suddenly in demand. Meanwhile, inside Council space, chaos erupted. Intelligence Director So Young had compiled a detailed report on humanity's preparations. She presented it to the Council leadership in a closed session. We have been tracking human diplomatic activity for the past 3 months, So Young explained. Her presentation displayed star maps covered in connection lines. What we initially believed was routine communication was actually something far more organized. Explain, Velthun demanded. His confidence had taken a serious blow after the Krethian defeat. Humanity has been building an alternative network, So Young continued. Trade agreements with independent systems, defense pacts with border regions, technology sharing with industrial worlds. They have created the foundation for a parallel economic and military structure that does not require council participation. This is speculation, Velthun protested. It is documented fact. We have intercepted communications, tracked ship movements, analyzed economic data. Humanity never needed the council. They only wanted mutual respect. When they did not receive it, they activated plans that were already in motion. The truth settled over the chamber like heavy fog. Humanity had not walked away in anger. They had walked away because they had other options. Better options. In the Krethian Empire, the situation grew worse daily. The Third Armada's defeat had destroyed more than ships. It destroyed confidence. 3 species that the Krethians had conquered decades ago sensed weakness. Rebellions began. On Draken 4, the local population rose against their Krethian occupiers. They had been slaves and servants for 20 years. Now they seized weapons and fought for freedom. The Krethian garrison tried to suppress the revolt, but lacked supplies and reinforcements. Human ships appeared in orbit above Dracon 4. Not warships. Transport vessels carrying medical supplies and food. Commander Sunwoo addressed the rebellion leaders directly. "We are not here to conquer you," he said. "We are here to offer humanitarian assistance. If you wish to claim your freedom, we will help you survive the transition. We ask nothing in return except that you treat your people with dignity." The rebellion leaders accepted gratefully. Similar scenes played out on 2 other occupied worlds. The Krethian Empire was collapsing from within. Their military was crippled. Their economy was in chaos. And humanity was helping their former subjects escape. The Galactic Council faced its own crisis. Emergency sessions ran day and night. Velthun tried to maintain order, but his authority was crumbling. Several member species openly questioned his leadership. The Centauri ambassador stood during one heated session. "We must acknowledge reality. The human strategy succeeded. Our strategy failed. Perhaps we were wrong about them." "We were not wrong," Velthun insisted. "The humans got lucky. They will still need the council eventually." "They are negotiating trade agreements with 17 different species," the Centauri countered. "Independent systems are requesting human protection." The Threxian Consortium just announced a technology partnership with humanity. What part of this looks like they need us? Those agreements violate council trade regulations, Velthun argued. "Only if those species remain in the council," another delegate pointed out. "What if they choose to leave?" Silence fell over the chamber. The unthinkable thought had been spoken aloud. Species might leave the council. The structure that had governed the galaxy for centuries might actually fracture. The Krethian Empire sent a desperate petition to the council. They requested military aid to suppress the rebellions and defend against human interference. They wanted council fleets to enforce stability. The vote was scheduled but never completed. Before it could take place, 3 council members announced they were withdrawing their support. They would not commit forces to defend the Krethian Empire's right to hold conquered populations. Velthun watched his political control evaporate. In desperation, he called for an emergency vote. He proposed economic sanctions against humanity, complete trade embargo, expulsion of human diplomats, freezing of human assets in council space. "We must show strength," he declared. "We must show that the council cannot be defied without consequences." But when the vote was called, the result shocked everyone. The sanctions proposal failed, not by a small margin. It was decisively rejected. Too many council members had already begun secret negotiations with humanity. They would not vote to punish a species they hoped to partner with. Jamin received word of the vote's failure while meeting with his 4th potential ally that week. He allowed himself a small smile. The council had tried to isolate humanity and failed. Now they were isolating themselves. Back on Earth, Admiral Bora reviewed the strategic situation with her command staff. The military campaign had succeeded beyond expectations. The diplomatic campaign was exceeding all projections. "We have requests for defense agreements from 12 independent systems," an officer reported. 4 council members have opened back-channel communications. The Threxian Consortium wants to formalize their technology exchange, and the Centauri Union has requested a private meeting with Ambassador Hyunwoo. The Centauri? Bora raised an eyebrow. They are a council founding member. Yes, Admiral, which makes this particularly significant. Bora nodded slowly. Everything was changing faster than even she had anticipated. The galaxy was watching humanity, not with pity or dismissal, with respect. And sometimes with hope. The Council had tried to force humanity into submission. Instead, they had forced the galaxy to see that alternatives existed. That the Council's way was not the only way. That respect and dignity mattered more than ancient hierarchies. Belthune sat alone in his chambers that night, staring at reports he could barely believe. His certainty had been absolute. The humans would beg to return. The Council would remain supreme. Order would be maintained, instead everything was falling apart. And he had no idea how to stop it. The invitation surprised everyone. Humanity announced a gathering on New Geneva, the human diplomatic capital. They invited representatives from every independent system in the region. They invited dissident council members. They invited species that had never participated in galactic politics before. The only group not invited was the council leadership itself. 60 different species sent representatives. Some came from curiosity, others came from opportunity. All came because they wanted to hear what humanity would say. New Geneva prepared for the largest diplomatic event in its short history. The new assembly hall could barely contain everyone. Human organizers worked day and night to accommodate different atmospheric requirements, dietary needs, and cultural protocols. Ambassador Hyun-woo stood backstage preparing his speech. Yoonji reviewed security arrangements nearby. This gathering represented both an opportunity and a risk. If it succeeded, everything could change. If it failed, humanity would be isolated. Are you ready? Yoonji asked. As ready as possible, Hyun-woo replied. We are about to offer the galaxy something very different. I hope they are ready to hear it. The assembly hall filled with delegates. The atmosphere buzzed with conversation and speculation. What would humanity propose? Another alliance? A trade bloc? A military pact? Hyun-woo walked onto the stage. The hall fell silent. Every eye focused on him. He took a moment to look across the audience. So many different species, so many different worlds, all here because humanity had refused to accept being treated as inferior. Thank you for coming, he began simply. I know many of you traveled far. Some of you took risks just by being here. I appreciate your courage and your curiosity. He paused, letting the translation systems catch up. 3 months ago, humanity walked away from peace negotiations. The Galactic Council offered us terms we could not accept. Terms that treated us as children to be disciplined, not equals to be respected. We chose dignity over convenience. We chose principle over pragmatism. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Some delegates nodded. Others looked uncertain. Since then, much has changed. The Crethean Empire learned that underestimating humanity carries consequences. The Council learned that humanity can survive without their approval. And we have learned something equally important. We learned that we are not alone. He gestured toward the assembled delegates. You are here because you also have questions about the current system. You wonder if there might be better alternatives. You seek partners who will treat you with respect rather than demanding obedience. On Earth, millions watched the broadcast. In council chambers, Velton watched with growing concern. What was Hyun-woo planning? Today, humanity makes a declaration, Hyun-woo continued. We declare our complete independence from the Galactic Council. We will no longer seek their approval or recognition. We stand as a sovereign species, answerable only to our own principles and those agreements we freely choose to make. Shocked reactions filled the hall. Complete independence from the Council was almost unheard of. Most species considered Council membership essential for survival. But we do not stand alone, Hyun-woo said firmly. And we do not ask you to stand alone either. Today, we propose something new. We propose the Free Systems Accord. Behind him, displays activated showing the proposed agreement's framework. Young Sik, the primary architect of the Accord, stood to explain the details. The Free Systems Accord is built on 3 principles, Young Sik announced. First, voluntary membership. No species is forced to join or remain. Second, mutual respect. All members are treated as equals regardless of age, size, or military power. Third, defensive cooperation. Members support each other against aggression, but are not forced into offensive wars. He displayed more details. Economic cooperation without mandatory trade agreements. information sharing without surveillance requirements, military coordination without command hierarchy, everything the Council offered, but without the control and condescension. We are not asking you to choose between the Council and humanity, Young Sik continued. We are offering an alternative for those who seek one. You can remain Council members if you wish. You can join the Accord. You can do both. The choice is yours. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not trying to replace the Council. They were creating a parallel structure that operated on completely different principles. Then Hyunwoo did something unexpected. He invited someone from the audience to speak. A woman named Minji, a former slave from one of the Krathian-occupied worlds. She walked onto the stage nervously. My name is Minji, she began in halting but clear galactic common language. 20 years ago, Krathian ships came to my world. They told us we would be protected. They told us we would be guided. Instead, we became slaves. Her testimony was powerful and painful. She described conditions on the occupied worlds, the casual cruelty, the complete lack of rights, the way the Council had ignored their pleas for help because it was politically inconvenient. Then humans came, Minji said. They did not come to conquer us. They came to help us. They asked nothing in return. They only said we deserved freedom and dignity. Her voice broke with emotion. For 20 years, the Council knew what was happening to us. They did nothing. In 3 months, humanity helped us become free. She was not the only one. 4 more witnesses took the stage. Species that had been marginalized, dismissed, or exploited under the current system. Their stories were damning. They revealed the truth behind the Council's claims of stability and order. Velthun watched the broadcast with growing horror. This was not just a political challenge. This was a moral indictment. Humanity was not just offering an alternative system. They were exposing the flaws in the existing one. After the testimonies, Hyunwoo returned to the stage. These are the people the Council failed. Not because the Council is evil, but because the Council operates on the principle that some species matter more than others. That older civilizations have the right to dictate terms to younger ones. That stability is more important than justice. He let that sink in before continuing. The Free Systems Accord rejects these principles. We believe every species deserves respect. Every world deserves sovereignty. Every voice deserves to be heard. Not because they are strong, not because they are old, but because they are people. The hall remained silent. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone present. I will not ask you to join today, Hyunwoo said. This is too important for quick decisions. Take time to consider. Discuss with your governments. But know this. Humanity extends the hand of friendship to all who approach in good faith. We will not judge you by your past choices, only by your future ones. Then he revealed something that shocked even those who thought they understood the situation. I must also inform you that 17 Council member species have already signed non-aggression pacts with humanity. They did this in secret because they feared Council repercussions. Today we make those agreements public. He displayed the list. 17 names. 17 Council members who had hedged their bets, who had decided humanity was worth talking to despite Velthun's prohibitions. The effect was immediate. If 17 Council members had already broken ranks, then the Council's authority was already compromised. The system was already fragmenting. The choice before you is not between the Council and humanity, Hyunwoo concluded. The choice is between a system that demands obedience and a system that offers partnership. Between being told your place and claiming your dignity. Choose wisely, choose freely, but most importantly, choose for yourselves. The broadcast ended. For several moments, no one in the assembly hall spoke. Then slowly applause began, not from everyone, but from enough. Species that had felt marginalized, systems that had been ignored, voices that had been silenced. 12 independent systems signed the Free Systems Accord immediately during the broadcast. They did not wait. They did not hesitate. They chose partnership over hierarchy. In council chambers, Velthun stood frozen. The planned vote on sanctions seemed irrelevant now. 3 council members announced they were withdrawing from the council entirely to join the Free Systems Accord. Others declared they would maintain dual membership. The exodus had begun. Not because humanity forced it, but because humanity offered something the council could not. Respect, dignity, choice. Young Sik watched the reactions with quiet satisfaction. We did it, he said to Hyunwoo. We gave them an alternative. Now we see if the alternative survives, Hyunwoo replied. This is only the beginning. 2 weeks after the declaration of sovereign stars, the Galactic Council faced a crisis unlike anything in its history. 8 member species had formally withdrawn. Another dozen maintained membership but openly traded with the Free Systems Accord. The Council's authority was collapsing. Economic indicators showed the problem clearly. Trade routes shifted away from Council-controlled systems. Ships chose Free Accord ports over Council stations. The Council currency, once the standard for all galactic commerce, began losing value. Markets that had been stable for centuries now fluctuated wildly. The Threxian Consortium announced a major manufacturing partnership with humanity. They would build shipyards and factories in Free Accord space. The economic implications were massive. Council worlds suddenly faced serious competition. Inside Council chambers, emergency sessions ran continuously. Delegates argued over responses. Some wanted military action. Others urged negotiation. Most simply looked confused and frightened. Velthun tried to maintain control, but his position weakened daily. The predictions he had made so confidently had all been wrong. Humanity had not begged to return. The Council's economic power had not forced compliance. Military superiority had not ensured victory. Ambassador Kilara of the Centauri Union had watched events carefully. The Centauri were one of the Council's founding members. Their opinion carried significant weight. She had remained quiet during previous debates, but now she decided to act. She requested a private meeting with senior Council leadership. 20 delegates gathered in a secure chamber. All represented moderate factions within the Council. We must face reality, Kilara began without preamble. The Council as we know it is failing. Not because of human aggression, because of our own rigidity. The humans are the problem, one delegate protested. They rejected legitimate authority. They rejected being treated as inferiors, Kilara corrected. There is a difference. We offered them terms we would never have accepted ourselves. We spoke to them as children. And now we are surprised they walked away? What do you propose? Another delegate asked. Complete restructuring. We acknowledge humanity as an equal power. We reform the Council's governance to prevent any single species or coalition from dominating others. And we propose a merger between the Reformed Council and the Free Systems Accord. Shocked silence filled the room. Merge with the Free Accord? Accept humanity as equals? These ideas were radical. If we do this, we admit we were wrong, someone said quietly. We were wrong, Kilara replied firmly. The human situation proved it. But we can learn from mistakes. We can adapt. Or we can cling to old systems and watch more species leave. The debate lasted hours. Finally, a majority agreed to pursue Kilara's proposal. They would form a Reformed Council faction and open negotiations with the Free Systems Accord. Velthun learned of this plan and reacted with fury. He called an emergency session and denounced the moderates as traitors. You would abandon centuries of tradition. You would surrender to these upstart humans. We would adapt to changing reality, Kilara responded calmly. Something you seem unable to do. Velthun made a desperate move. He called for a vote to expel all Reformed Council members. He believed enough hardliners remained to support him. He believed he could purge the dissidents and restore the old order. The vote failed. The Council was too fractured. Too many species had already decided that reform was necessary. Some voted against Velthun out of principle. Others voted against him out of fear of being left behind. The Council split openly. The old Council consisted of 7 species who refused to change. The Reformed Council contained everyone else. The institution that had governed the galaxy for centuries divided into 2 competing factions. Meanwhile, the Krethian Empire completed its collapse. The government fell to internal rebellion. The former occupied worlds declared independence and immediately requested membership in the Free Systems Accord. Humanity sponsored their applications and promised economic support during the transition. Commander Sunwoo oversaw humanitarian operations across former Krethian space. His forces maintained order while new governments formed. They provided medical aid, food distribution, and technical expertise. They did all this without making demands or claiming territory. Why are you helping us? A local leader asked Sunwoo. What do you want in return? We want nothing, Sunwoo replied honestly. We help because it is right. Because we remember when we needed help and received only demands. We choose to be different. The old council, isolated and economically failing, grew desperate. They could not compete with the Free Accords trade networks. They could not match the appeal of the Reformed Council's new structure. Species that had seemed loyal began questioning their continued membership. Velthun faced a vote of no confidence from his own remaining members. Even among the hardliners, support for his leadership had evaporated. He had promised strength and delivered weakness. He had promised stability and delivered chaos. On Earth, Admiral Bora reviewed strategic assessments with her staff. The military situation had stabilized completely. No threats remained on the horizon. The Krethian Empire was gone. The Council was fractured. Human territories were secure. "What concerns me," Bora said thoughtfully, "is what comes next. We have disrupted the old order. Now we must ensure something better replaces it." "The Free Accord is growing rapidly," an officer pointed out. 23 members now. Applications arrive daily. Growth is not the same as stability. We need to ensure the Accord's principles remain strong as it expands, that it does not become another council. Human observer Tae Yang had been documenting the council's collapse for historical records. His reports painted a picture of an institution failing from within, not destroyed by external force, destroyed by its own unwillingness to adapt. They had centuries to change, Tae Yang recorded, opportunities to become more fair, more just, more flexible, but they believed their way was the only way. They believed might made right, and when challenged, they chose rigidity over reform. The Reformed Council formally opened negotiations with the Free Systems Accord. Ambassador Hyunwoo met with Ambassador Kilara in neutral space. The meeting was friendly but serious. "We are prepared to completely restructure the Council," Kilara began. "New charter, new governance, new principles based on equality and respect." "And the species that caused harm under the old system?" Hyunwoo asked. "What of them? They must acknowledge past wrongs, make amends where possible, commit to new standards. This includes my own people. The Centauri supported unjust policies. We must own that truth." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. "I appreciate your honesty, but I must tell you, many in humanity want no part of any council. They see the entire institution as corrupt. Then we must build something new together. Not a council, not an accord, something that combines the best of both while discarding what does not work." The negotiations continued for days. Both sides approached with good faith. Both acknowledged past mistakes. Both focused on creating something better rather than defending what had been. Meanwhile, the old council made one final desperate move. Velthun issued arrest warrants for the entire human delegation. He claimed they had violated galactic law by inciting rebellion and undermining legitimate authority. No one enforced the warrants. No council security forces attempted arrests. No member species supported the action. The warrants existed only on paper, a final impotent gesture from a dying regime. Velthun sat alone in his chambers, staring at those worthless warrants. He had been so certain, so confident in the old ways, so sure that authority and tradition would prevail. Now he had nothing. 7 species remained in the old council, but even they were reconsidering. Trade had become difficult. Diplomatic isolation was nearly complete. The remaining members stayed out of stubbornness more than conviction. In Free Accord space, celebrations marked each new member joining. Not military celebrations. Cultural exchanges, trade fairs, scientific conferences. The Accord was becoming something organic and dynamic, growing through genuine cooperation rather than imposed structure. Young Sik spoke at one such celebration. "We did not destroy the council. We simply showed that alternatives exist, that respect can be chosen over hierarchy, that dignity matters more than age or power. The council destroyed itself by refusing to learn these lessons. The galaxy was changing. The old certainties were gone. New structures were forming. And humanity stood at the center of it all, not through conquest or domination, but through a simple refusal to accept being treated as less than equal." History would record this period as the Great Fracture. But those living through it saw something else. They saw the moment when the galaxy learned that might does not make right, that tradition does not justify injustice, that change is possible when enough people demand it. 6 months had passed since humanity walked away from the peace talks. Unity Station now orbited between Earth and Centauri Prime, a massive structure built jointly by 20 different species. It represented something unprecedented in galactic history. A completely new beginning. The grand chamber inside Unity Station could hold thousands. Today it held representatives from 47 different systems. Some were former council members. Some were Free Accord founders. Some had never participated in galactic politics before. All came together for a single purpose. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood on the main platform, but he was not alone. Ambassador Kilara stood beside him. So did representatives from the Threxian Consortium, the former Krathian worlds, and dozens of other species. They shared the stage as equals. Today we ratify the Charter of the Alliance of Free Peoples, Hyunwoo announced. His voice carried throughout the chamber and across subspace to billions of viewers. This alliance represents the merger of the Reformed Council and the Free Systems Accord. It represents a new way forward for all of us. The ratification ceremony was simple but meaningful. Each representative signed the charter using their species' traditional method. Some used writing instruments. Others used digital signatures. A few used biometric markers. The diversity of methods reflected the diversity of the alliance itself. Kilara spoke next. This alliance is built on principles that should have always governed galactic relations. Mutual respect, voluntary cooperation, equal voice regardless of age or power. These are not radical ideas. They are simple justice. She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried emotion. The Centauri Union must acknowledge our role in the old system's failures. We supported policies that marginalized younger species. We remained silent when others suffered. We prioritized stability over justice. For this, we apologize. We commit to doing better. Other species made similar acknowledgments. The Threxians admitted they had profited from unfair trade practices. Several former council members confessed to looking away from atrocities. The honesty was uncomfortable but necessary. Applications for alliance membership arrived daily. Each was reviewed carefully. The alliance did not want to grow too quickly. They wanted to ensure every new member understood and accepted the founding principles. Some applications were rejected. Species that refused to acknowledge past wrongs. Governments that demanded special privileges. Systems that wanted membership benefits without accepting responsibilities. The alliance was willing to be small if being large meant compromising its values. The old council still existed technically. 7 species maintained it, but it had become irrelevant. No one took it seriously. Trade avoided old council space. Diplomatic missions ignored it. Even the member species themselves were reconsidering their position. Then something unexpected happened. A small ship arrived at Unity Station requesting permission to dock. The ship carried a delegation from the old council. Not a large delegation, just 3 people. One of them was Velthun. The request caused significant debate. Many alliance members wanted to refuse. Velthun represented everything they had worked to overcome. His arrogance had started this entire crisis. Why should he be welcomed? Hyunwoo argued for acceptance. If we refuse to meet with those who wronged us, we become what they were. We must be better than that. The Alliance Council agreed, though reluctantly. Velthun and his companions were granted an audience. No cameras. No publicity. Just a private meeting with Alliance leadership. Velthun entered the meeting room looking diminished. The arrogant certainty was gone. He looked tired and old. He sat across from Hyunwoo, Kilara, and Admiral Bora. The silence stretched uncomfortably. I have come to request membership in the Alliance, Velthun said finally. His voice was quiet. The old council cannot survive. Our remaining members will join individually or collapse. I am here to begin that process for my people. Why should we accept you? Bora asked bluntly. You tried to humiliate humanity. You dismissed our casualties as insignificant. You called us too primitive for civilization. I was wrong, Velthun said simply. About everything. I believed in a system that valued age over wisdom, power over justice. I believed younger species needed guidance from their betters. I was completely, utterly wrong. Admitting error is a beginning, Kilara observed. But it is not enough. What has changed? Velthun looked directly at Hyunwoo. When you walked away from those negotiations, I thought you were making a childish mistake. I believed you would return begging within days. Instead, you showed me that my entire worldview was built on false assumptions, that the system I dedicated my life to was fundamentally unjust. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Watching the council fracture taught me something painful. Authority is not the same as legitimacy. Age is not the same as wisdom. And power without respect is worthless. You did not defeat the council with military force. You defeated it by offering something better and refusing to compromise your principles. Pretty words, Bora said skeptically, but you issued arrest warrants for us. You tried to use what remained of your authority to punish humanity for seeking dignity. I did, Velthun acknowledged. That was desperation. The actions of someone watching his world collapse and lashing out blindly. I withdrew those warrants 3 months ago. I released all documents showing Council wrongdoing to the public. I have spent these months trying to make amends in whatever small ways I could. Hyunwoo studied the former High Arbitrator carefully. Was this genuine contrition? Or political calculation? He honestly could not tell. If we accept you, you understand the terms? Hyunwoo asked. No special status. No privileges. You join as equals to everyone else. Species that were slaves under your system will have the same voice you have. I understand, Velthun replied, and I accept these terms. Not because I must, but because they are right. Because this is how things should have always been. The Alliance leadership debated for hours after Velthun left. The vote was close. Many wanted to refuse out of principle. Others saw value in showing mercy and redemption were possible. Finally, they voted to accept the old council members into the Alliance. But with conditions. They must publicly acknowledge historical wrongs. They must support reparations where possible. They must prove through actions that they had truly changed. Velthun accepted all conditions without argument. He made his public statement the next day. It was broadcast across Alliance space and beyond. He stood before the cameras looking small and apologetic. I speak for my people and myself, he began. We were wrong. The old council system was unjust. We treated younger species as inferiors. We ignored suffering for political convenience. We valued stability over justice. We were wrong and we are sorry. It was not a perfect apology. Words could not undo centuries of harm, but it was honest. And it was a beginning. Far from Unity Station in a military training facility on Earth, young cadet Ji-Hai watched the ceremony with her classmates. She had been too young to remember the war. The crisis was just history to her generation. But the lessons were not. Commander Hai-Wan, now an instructor, stood before the class. You will all serve in the Alliance fleet eventually. I want you to understand what you are protecting. We did not win by being the strongest. We won by refusing to bow. But we did have to fight, one cadet pointed out. We defeated the Krathians militarily. We defeated them strategically, Hai-Wan corrected. We fought when necessary. But victory came from preparation, planning, and refusing to accept their assumptions about how the war should be fought. More importantly, we won the peace by offering something better than what existed before. Ji-Hai raised her hand. What if someone challenges the Alliance the way humanity challenged the Council? What if we become what they were? Hai-Wan smiled. That is exactly the right question. The answer is vigilance. We must constantly examine our principles. We must listen when others criticize us. We must be willing to change when change is needed. The moment we believe we have all the answers is the moment we start down the Council's path. At Unity Station, the ratification ceremony concluded with a symbolic moment. A massive display showed the Alliance flag. 47 stars representing 47 member systems. The design was simple. No hierarchy. No central dominant star. Just equals in constellation. Admiral Bora stood with Captain Daehyun on an observation deck, watching ships from dozens of species moving around the station. Human vessels beside Centauri cruisers. Threxian transports near former Krathian colony ships. All flying the Alliance banner. Did we do the right thing? Daehyun asked quietly. Accepting Velthun and the others? I honestly do not know, Bora admitted. But refusing would have made us what we fought against. We demanded respect and got war. They demanded obedience and got rebellion. Both sides learned. Both sides changed. Maybe that is what matters. You sound optimistic. I sound realistic. This alliance is fragile. It could fail. Species could revert to old patterns. But at least now there is a chance. Before humanity walked away, there was no chance. Just endless continuation of injustice. In the Grand Chamber, Young-Sik addressed the assembled representatives one final time. This alliance is not the end of our journey. It is the beginning. We will face challenges. We will make mistakes. We will disagree on important issues.